Thank you, Liz. Well, certainly, I hope you're all safe and well out there. It's certainly very interesting and amazing times that we find ourselves in. And I was going to give you a bit of my background, but Liz has covered that off. So yeah, I've got I was originally an engineer, extensive background in advertising. And then my wife, Per and I have set up numerous businesses over the last 15 years. And a lot of this stuff we learned during the GFC, so I'll touch on that during the presentation. We made a lot of mistakes. We made money, lost money. Now I work as a coach at the Ice House, and my main job is to help people grow their businesses. And I've got a lot of lessons, and obviously try and guide them so that they don't make the same lessons we have. And that's why I love doing, and that's why I'm here. I'm happy to be sharing with you. So let's kick into the prezzo. So I'll just get my slides up. Right, hopefully everyone can see that. So as you can see, we're talking about leadership and planning in a crisis. Oops, my page is down. So just quickly run through the agenda. So there's 3 points to this presentation: delivering strong and clear leadership required in a crisis. It is the time to stand up. Planning for the future in a time of uncertainty. It's always hard to plan when you don't know the future, but I'm going to talk about some skills and some things you can do to actually start planning, even though you don't know exactly what's coming. And the third one, setting up your business to exit the crisis in a stronger position. So a bit of background. Before the GFC, I'd left advertising. My wife done an amazing job. Per had set up Nappies Direct, and when she'd built it up to a reasonable size, 3 years later, I left and joined the business as well. And when we first started, it was quite interesting. We were taking on Countdown and The Warehouse, were our two biggest competitors. And we would have so many critics telling us, oh, you can't compete with those guys. They're big. They've got lots of money. You're operating on really thin margins. It's a silly business. Anyway, then the GFC hit, and suddenly we were considered like geniuses, so we were suddenly the people that were recession-proof, and we were so clever. So there's a bit of luck in that as well, but we'd actually set up our business so we had a lot of contingency, and why we weren't expecting the GFC, we were prepared for a battle, and we'd made plans and we implemented those plans. So I'm going to share some of that stuff with you today. So first of all, confidence comes from preparation. So now we're all being hit, but now we've got to prepare. So I want you to think about, confidence comes from preparation. So let's start preparing. And as I said in my intro, when we emailed this out to you all, we don't know the full impact of the current crisis will be, nor when it'll end, but it will end. So our job is to get set up, work our ways through that, and then come out the other side in a stronger, better position. So my first of my 3 points, strong and clear leadership. So I'm going to talk about setting the course, set inspiring challenges for your team, lead from the front, make decisions, assemble the team, and then take people where they need to be. So first of all, setting the course. If one does not know which port one is sailing to, no wind is favorable. This is one of my favorite quotes. It's was written by a guy in 78 AD, and it's still so relevant today. Like, if you don't know where you're sailing to, no wind is ever going to be behind you. So you'll never find that you're under control. So first of all, know which way you're sailing. And I just want to put that into context. Like, it's very hard at the moment to think about, well, hey, where do we go? But put a stake in the map. It's hard to put a pin in the map, but you can put a stake in the map. You look at our forefathers when they sailed down from Tonga and the Cook Islands and Samoa. They didn't know where exactly they were going, but they knew there was land south. And that was because they could see birds migrating, and they thought, hey, let's go and check this out. So they made plans. They knew the best time of year to sail. They knew which way the winds needed to be going. They had to pack food and water. And they would take like about 80 days of water, knowing that if they hadn't made destination in 40 days, they could hopefully turn around and come back. But so they made plans. They knew which direction they were sailing in, but not to which port. So just put a stake in the map. You've got to put a stake. Okay, set inspiring challenges. Now, this is one of my all-time favorite quotes. This is JFK. And when he was talking about the space race, the US could have done something very lame and gone, oh, we're going to be the leaders in space technology. and what does that mean? But he said, we're going to put a man on the moon, and we're going to do it by the end of the decade. So brilliant. It not only inspired NASA, it inspired a nation, it inspired the world, because it was clear, it was aspirational, it was time bound. So be inspiring, set inspiring challenges for your team. My third point, lead from the front. And this is where I'd like to say, big ups to Jacinda Ardern. I think, the rest of the world's probably quite jealous of what an amazing job her and her government have done in this time. There was a beautiful post piece in the Washington Post this morning, just saying what an amazing job New Zealand's done. From the outset, that she's been decisive, unequivocal, faced the threat. And you look at so many other nations around the world. They've been slow to ramp up. They haven't made decisive decisions, and now they're paying the price. So, if you're looking for a great leader at the moment, New Zealand's lucky enough to have one right on our own doorstep. Make decisions and move forward. Again, one of my favorite, most inspiring sayings. This is from Theodore Roosevelt. In any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing you can do is the wrong thing. And the worst thing you can do is nothing. And that is so true. So many people, you'll never have all the right information to make a fully informed decision. And by the time you've assembled all that information, your opportunity is gone. Life's passed you by. Your competitors overrun you. So keep moving forward. You're giving your team someone to follow, something to get on with, some purpose. So make decisions. Don't wait till you've got all the information. Assemble your coaching team. Now, this is really interesting. Obviously, I'm a business coach, but, I'm no legal expert, so I need legal expertise. I need accounting expertise. But sometimes your coaches can be the most interesting people. One of the greatest sales tips I've ever been given is find your coach within an organization. And you might find it's one of the junior product managers or something in an organization, but they'll tell you, hey, look, it's actually Wendy is the decision maker. You're not talking to the right person. And Wendy only cares, say, about security of the system. So if you're trying to sell software, you could have gone in there and said, it integrates with this, it does that, all the bells and whistles. But now straight away by talking to that junior person, they've already given you the heads up that you need to be speaking to Wendy and you need to be talking about security. So you know how to start that conversation. So find your coaches, and they're not always the people you think they are. And finally, take people where they need to go. I mean, again, a fabulous quote from Rosalind Carter. A leader takes people where they want to go. A great leader takes people where they don't necessarily want to go, but ought to be. Okay, so sometimes you have to give people a vision that's outside their comfort zone, but you've got to lead them to that destination. Okay, the second part of my presentation, planning for the future in a time of uncertainty. Again, these are just tips and learnings I've taken along the way and things that inspire me, and that's what I'm hoping they'll do for you. So as silly as this might sound, plan backwards. I'll obviously explain that in a moment. Think in outcomes, be bold, think outside the box, limit the downside, make people feel valued, and embrace change. Okay, now this is one of the cleverest pieces of planning I've ever come across in my life. Many of you will have heard of Komatsu, makes huge industrial equipment. In the 30s, their owner or founder was a clever man, and he had a thing called the Komatsu Way. It was all their philosophy about doing business. But they did something else that's not as well known. They actually developed a thing called Komatsu Planning. And what they did there, straight after World War II, they literally produced one small tractor. And they decided they were going to be as big as Caterpillar. And Caterpillar made bulldozers, diggers, scrapers, cranes, you name it. And people laughed at them. They decided it was going to take them 50 years. So they put a plan out at the end of World War II to the end of the century. And they said, if we're going to have, massive bulldozers, massive diggers, they start at 50 years from now, where would we need to be 40 years from now? Well, 40 years from now, we'd have to have scaled down versions of all those machines. 30 years from now, we're going to have developed the hydraulic systems and the blades and everything. And then they worked back, and it's quite amazing. You can work backwards doing this to the point that you can start working out when you need to be hiring people, and then when do you actually start to need to be advertising those jobs? It's an amazing way of planning. So think with the destination and then work your way backwards. I can't emphasize how powerful that is. Think in outcomes, not to-do lists. So many people have a massive to-do list. It's very unrewarding. You kind of tick stuff off, you work your way through, and you don't get that feeling of achievement, and you don't inspire or empower anyone else, even yourself. So Team New Zealand, absolutely brilliant, very clear goals. We're going to win the America's Cup. Everyone on board knows exactly what they're there for. They also have another benchmark, which I love, is will it make the boat go faster? So they don't have fluffy conversations around, do we need a new coffee machine? Because it won't make the boat go faster. But if you say, look, we want a new simulator, and this is why, because we think we'll make the boat go faster, hey, that's a smart use of their money. So that's how they survive on small budgets compared to many of their competitors. Be bold. You know, Seth Godin is probably my favorite marketing person in the world. Yeah, and I love this. The key to success is to find a way to stand out. Be the purple cow in a field of monochrome Holsteins. Yeah, like you can, you can hide with wallpaper. But if you really want to be successful, and this comes from my advertising days, there's a great saying like, give me the freedom of a tight brief by David Ogilvy. And he says that, you know, you tell me exactly what you want, when you want it, how you want it, what color you want it, then I'll do the most creative thing. And if you define that brief and then you go and you come up with ideas that answer that brief, the most scary, powerful idea that answers that brief is the one you should go with. Otherwise, you're just limiting your ability to stand out and be noticed. So write the brief, find the most creative, amazing answer, stand out, be the purple cow. Be bold, think outside the box. This is from General Patton, famous World War II general. If everyone is thinking alike, then someone isn't thinking. You've got to actually think outside the square. Think, you know, you've got to have a devil's advocate, and we've sadly made that mistake. We thought it was all roses. We followed plans, thought it's all falling into place. We never didn't looked at what could be the downside. Things will go wrong, especially in this market. So work out, hey, what's the alternative? What if this didn't work out? And following on from that, my next point is understand and limit the downside. You know, this is great. This is from Richard Branson. He wanted to move from the music industry, saw an opportunity to launch an airline. His board was obviously very reluctant because they were all in the music game, and suddenly he wanted to be an airline. So he went and negotiated a deal with Boeing, and he could lease a plane for 1 year. And then if it didn't work out, he'd give the plane back. So suddenly he could enter the airline business, and his board was happy because they knew their maximum downside was 1 year of lease on a Boeing, you know. And as a small business, you've got to understand that, especially because, yeah, it's one thing you might lose your business in this crisis, but it's another thing if you're going to lose your house. So, you know, you've got to try and limit the downside and understand what it is. Make people feel valued. Maya Angelou, like one of the most amazing people to have ever lived, you know, and this is so true. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. You know, that is exactly, you've got to make your staff feel like, you know, you care, you want to help, and especially your customers. People buy from people who care. You know, and the more you show them you care, the more likely they'll buy from you. Embrace change. You know, again, such a practical saying, but if things don't change to stay the way they are, people are so worried about this current environment and how scary it is, and yet they don't change. They're feared. They're stuck in their tracks. The point is, you've got to make change. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind. You're going to be smacked in the teeth by this virus. So, you know, change is coming. We know that. So roll with the punches, embrace it, get on with it. Don't fear it. Okay, my final point, setting up your business to exit the crisis in a stronger position. Okay, so get in the arena, know what energizes you, take the punch and get up, eat your vegetables first, celebrate milestones, always take shots. So, okay, I'll explain what those mean. So this is a fabulous quote from Theodore Roosevelt, but, you know, really want to give big ups to Brené Brown. If you haven't read a book, I thoroughly recommend it. It's called Daring Greatly. And she's the person that brought this to life in the 21st century. So, you know, it's a great quote from Theodore Roosevelt. You know, it's not the critic who counts, nor the man who points out the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done better. So don't listen to critics. You know, there's always critics. Everyone's a critic. Don't worry about them. But the credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, who valiantly strives, who errs, comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. We're all going to make mistakes. Get over it. Move on. But at best, who knows in the end, the triumph of high achievement. At the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly. Now that is inspiration. And that's right. Just get out there and have a go. Don't listen to naysayers. Everyone sits on the sidelines. Get in the arena. Know what energizes you. This comes from Gilbert Anoka, who spoke at the Ice House conference last year. And again, it's so clever. He would spend so much time working out what energized the All Blacks so that they could perform at their best. They couldn't be great if they weren't energized. So whether it's meditations, prayer, sport, you know, exercise, whatever it is that energizes you, work out that and do it daily. Make it a habit so you're energized, so you can bring that energy to your business every day. Take the punch and then get up. You know, great quote from Mike Tyson. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. At the moment, we're all getting punched. You know, I've got some clients who are, you know, it's pretty sad out there. It's pretty hard times. And, you know, you're not out until you don't get up again. So you've got to get up. So take the punch. There's more coming. We all know that. But get ready for them and get ready to take the learnings, get up off the ground and keep going. Eat your vegetables first. Attack your problems. Again, great advice. You know, like, everyone would rather do the exciting stuff, but if you've got some real problems, while you've got the energy, you've got to focus on those first. Otherwise, they just nag away at you in the background. You know, like, you know, in a classic at the moment, there'd be a lot of small businesses out there worried about cash flow. If you're not on top of it, if I can encourage one thing, get onto your cash flow now, understand those numbers, and then that'll give you some breathing space. At least then you can talk to the bank or whoever else you need to talk to and say, this is my reality. But don't put it off, because it's just going to be nagging you away in the background and you won't be working efficiently on other tasks because you haven't solved that. Celebrate milestones. Hey, if you've put a plan in place, hey, it might be to survive till September, or, you know, when you hit those milestones, put them in your plan. Make sure you celebrate. It's so important. Then you get a sense of achievement as well, because otherwise you're going to be like just carrying on. Where if you go, hey, look, we're still going on the 1st of June. This is, you know, celebrate that. That's an achievement. And then my final point, I don't know how many, you know, Wayne Gretzky, but it's considered the greatest ice hockey player of all time. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. You know, please take the shots. There's no point sitting back waiting until things get better. Okay, now's the time to take shots. Get out there, you know. Sure, you'll miss some. Of course you will. But if you don't shoot any, you're not scoring any goals. Okay, just to summarize. Confidence comes from preparation. Now, these are the 3 things. You can hit a sweet spot: leadership, planning, and execution. You want to do those 3 things in conjunction with each other. And if you get them right, and they don't have to be perfect, but you'll hit a sweet spot, you will be in the best possible position to ride out this crisis that we find ourselves in. So just to sum up, for leadership, set the course, set an inspiring challenge, lead from the front, make decisions, assemble your coaching team, and lead from and take people where they need to be. In uncertainty, plan backwards, think in outcomes, be bold, think outside the box, limit the downside, make people embrace change. And then execution, setting up to exit stronger, get in the arena, know what energizes you, take the punch, then get up, eat your vegetables, celebrate milestones, always take the shot. And so, my final point, cometh the hour, cometh the leader. This is your time to shine. So get on with it. Hopefully you've learned something, or you've got one thing to take away and apply to your business. But now's the time to stand up and be counted. Thank you.